Northeastern Wrestling's very own Bull Dredd. Welcome to the show, Bull.
Hey, thank you guys. Thank you for having me on today.
Yeah. Now, some of our listeners are mainly just WWE and TNA fans. Why don't you give us a little bit introduction of who you are and what Northeastern Wrestling really is?
My name is Bull Dredd. I've been wrestling. I've been in the business. Going to be 11 years next month, in maybe about 3 weeks. It'll be 11 years exact. I've been in the wrestling business and the wrestling for Northeast Wrestling, one of the top fundraising promotions in pretty much in the United States. I would compare Northeast Wrestling to the likes of like TNA and WWE.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, Graham, you wanted to ask a couple questions about capturing the NEW title?
Yes. Well, right before I get to that, Bull, I know I listened to your interview with WrestleView a number of weeks ago. Very awesome podcast. I don't want to ask you the same exact questions, but just some similar ones to that so we don't repeat the entire podcast. But one question I have for you, is whether you enjoy working as a face or a heel more, because I know that you introduced in your other podcast that you, as a heel, that your daughter comes to some of the shows and that she saw you working as a heel and that she kind of got the fact that you were working as a bad guy. So preferably, do you work, would you rather work as a face or a heel during your matches?
It pretty much, I could do both.
What do you see? The conscious personality. I know your anger. I know your dreams. I've been everything you wanna be. Oh, I'm the conscious personality. Neon lights, Nobel Prize. When I'm near, see the reflection light. You won't have to follow me. Only you can set me free.
Yeah, I'm really sorry about that. We have a malfunction with the podcast. It just randomly plays every time we go to the show. So you can continue on. Sorry about that.
That's all right. I mean, I could, my character is pretty much very aggressive in nature, and I mean, I could do both heel face, but I prefer being the more aggressive heel. I could get real nasty and everything, and I just gotta pretty much watch my language and stuff like that. But like you saw me at the Perryville show. Even though I was very aggressive and I was just the heel of the match, I was still getting over like I was a baby. But I prefer being the aggressor and the very, just to pound your ass to the ground type, gimmick. So I pretty much like the appeal.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, I was at that show in Terryville. You did an awesome job working over the crowd as a heel. And as you said, more of the hardcore fans that attend those kind of shows tend to cheer more of the heels than they do the baby faces. Because I noticed during your match, I believe you wrestled Lucas Sharp, who is otherwise known as Mr. 305, 203 from the Connecticut zip code. But that was an awesome match. I see that you got a lot of cheers, even though you're working as a heel. So your fanfare is really up there. And speaking of your fanfare, I'm not too sure. I'm not 100% up on your NEW career. Have you ever captured the NEW championship? And if you have or haven't, do you have any goals of capturing it in the future?
No, I haven't captured anything, but my goals are just to work any show that I can, that I'm, any match that I'm given or whatever's put forth to me. I mean, I don't complain about who I worked and who decides to get in the ring with me. What I've learned in this business is that you don't need a belt or you need a title around your waist to be top of your game, to be the best in the business. You know what I mean? I don't need to be you don't need to be a champion to be over. There's guys that's had belts. Let's just say like Sheamus, he had the title. but he wasn't the most over guy. John Cena was. You know what I mean? So, me, I don't need a belt. I don't need a belt. I don't need a title around my waist to be happy or to be number one, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. And actually, speaking of John Cena, and ironically enough, I saw you commented on a picture from Facebook a number of weeks ago. It was a picture that CM Punk tweeted, I guess. It was of all the current champions in WWE. And you said that in your comment that the best part about that picture was that none of them were wearing jean shorts or sneakers. And that was really, really funny. I just want to get your thoughts. I just want to get your thoughts on what you believe is the current, if you watch WWE or TNA, it kind of sounds like you do, on your current thoughts on the WWE product as of right now.
Current WWE product right now, there's more, it's just too much drama and not that much wrestling. I mean, you got a lot of guys that know how to work, but they get limited on what they could do. It's too much focusing on, like, storylines. I mean, I'm not saying wrestling doesn't need storylines, but wrestling to me is not what it should be. Wrestling to me was back as far back as the Attitude Era. I mean, that was probably the peak of what wrestling should be. And I mean, I grew up watching this, you know, late 70s and the 80s and 90s. I mean, like TNA. I mean, even though it probably doesn't get that much of a following as like WWE does, but there's actually more action, more wrestling involved in a TNA program than there is in WWE, you know, or in a Monday Night Raw. But, you know, to me, what's on TV is not what wrestling is or what it was when I was growing up. You know?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, they're really...
I mean, to me, when I think of a world champion of a wrestler, I think of like Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan or Arn Anderson. You know, 20 years from now, people are going to look back like, you know, like yourself and my kid, my son who's only 4, who's only going to remember John Cena, somebody that wears sneakers and jean shorts to the ring. To me, that's not a wrestler.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But speaking of the WWE, if you ever did make it to WWE, well, actually going back on what you just said a moment ago, it seems like they are transitioning into that kind of era where wrestling matters more, kind of like TNA wrestling, although they have overbooked finishes and stuff like that. I mean, with CM Punk as champion, Daniel Bryan, Zack Ryder kind of, but they're kind of transitioning back into that, not the Attitude Era, but more of a wrestling era, a reality era where that wrestling is more present during the matches and in the storylines. They've kind of downed on the drama during the WWE television in recent months, especially with that whole Kevin Nash texting angle. They got rid of all that stuff, all the drama. But speaking of WWE, if I know that you mentioned in your Wrestle View podcast, you said that a couple of years ago, if anyone offered you a WWE contract, you'd just without a doubt say yes. However, even though if they asked you today, in today's world, you'd say no because you are content with what you're working with right now. However, if you were working with WWE at the moment, I was just wondering who would be your dream opponent? Maybe not just WWE, TNA, you know, with Ric Flair and all those legends and all that. Who would be your dream opponent if you were to work for WWE or TNA?
It could be anybody. You mean like anybody that in their prime, like anybody that I've watched on TV, even a legend? Or just what's your top who's on TV right now?
I think I did.
Yeah, it could be basically like anyone, pretty much. Legend. Let's just say, actually, I'll just say that let's go with anyone on television right now. Then we'll get to the legend portion of it in a minute.
Anybody that would be on TV right now? Oh man. I mean, like Cody Rhodes or even like a Randy Orton, somebody that could work, you know, that actually knows how to work, knows how to sell, and make you look good, and make a match look good, you know.
Yeah, actually, Cody Rhodes, that's a really interesting choice. That's a really, really interesting choice.
Even a Dolph Ziggler, you know.
Yeah. Like some of those younger guys, it seems like during your match with Lucas Sharp, I should say, back in Terryville a couple weeks ago. He's a younger talent. I know you're older than him, but you're really good at putting over your opponent during your matches. I mean, so working with a younger star such as Dolph Ziggler or Cody Rhodes could really enhance the chemistry and the drama of that match. It seems like you're a really good storyteller inside of the ring. And going back on your interview with WrestleView from a couple months ago, you mentioned how taking bumps is your favorite part of matches. Now, I find that really interesting because a lot of people don't say that. It's really interesting that you say that because that's what makes you a good worker. Not to lie or anything, but that's true. That's the hard fact of it, that you are a good worker because you like to take bumps and you like to put over your opponent during your matches. Now, would you rather work, let's say you have the opportunity to work with a legend. Would you rather work with someone in their prime today, such as Dolph Ziggler or Cody Rhodes or Randy Orton, as you said, or a legend, someone that you've confronted in the past, someone like Ric Flair at one of the NEW shows, Ric Flair or Hulk Hogan, as you mentioned? Which one would you rather step up in the ring with?
I'd rather be in the ring with like a Ric Flair. My ultimate would be Arn Anderson at his prime, because if you watch some of Arn Anderson's old matches, even though he was the heel and he was a good worker, he had no problem making himself look like an idiot to make the other person look better, to get him over. To me, I mean, the heel always gets outsmarted by the baby, and in order to do that, you got to make yourself look like an idiot. And I have no problem to make myself look like I slipped up, made a mistake, miss a stupid move, and make myself look like a jabron, a total idiot, to get the other guy over. It just makes when you're beating his ass during the match even better, and it just makes the match better at the end. And if you end up losing, if you end up putting the other guy over, or if he puts you over, it's just all story. It's all storyline on how you make the match, because you need two guys to make the match look great. And if one guy is just bumping and bumping and bumping and not making the other guy look good, the other guy's always looking strong and not taking any heat whatsoever, the match is going to look like crap.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. But if the fact that your opponent is someone like Lucas Sharp and you're doing exactly what you're saying you're doing, and you're putting over your opponent and you're taking bumps, which is an excellent thing to do when you're working with younger wrestlers. However, if you're working with someone more in the timetable that you are, such as Ron Zombie, would you do the same for him? And I know there's a lot of personal issues between you two. Would you like to expand upon that?
Me and Ronnie go way back. Ronnie was one of my trainers. We've had personal issues. I mean, it's still there. We had our match, back in Waterbury, and he proved to be the Connecticut hardcore icon. And I'm not going to take that away from him. Working somebody like Ronnie, being two big guys. We still got to go in there and give the people what they want to see. Two big men getting in there and pounding on each other. Am I going to freaking try to make them look like crap? No. And I'm sure he won't do the same to me. And like I said, I mean, when you got to build up to a freaking high-profile match, you can't disappoint. You can't make the other guy look like, make him look like crap, because and then people are going to say, that was a freaking crappy match, Just got to put it all out there, no matter who's out there, who you're in there with. I mean, if there's a guy that's 500 pounds, I mean, I've worked guys that are 100 pounds heavier than me. I've had to make him look like a monster, and at the same time, he still made me look like a monster, even though I'm 100 pounds lighter,
Yeah, that's just the chemistry of the matches and how they work and stuff. So that's really interesting that you say that, because it works differently for a variety of different matches. That's really, really an interesting aspect of the matches. Hey Ben, are you still there? Oh no, sorry. You can continue, Bill. I apologize.
Yeah, the thing is, the more years you get in, it's psychology. You got a lot of these younger guys that have only been in the business 3 or 4 years. Train maybe about 3 or 4 months. Think they're wrestlers. They think, get in the ring, you're going to do 10, 14. 20 high spots, and they think that's a wrestling match. I mean, and there's no story. I mean, it's not the moves that make the match. It's the storyline that makes the match,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's what I've learned over the last, 11 years. It's psychology. I don't have to do 100 moves to get over. All I got to do is look at somebody in the face and freaking give them a growl, and I'm over,
Yeah,
you saw what I had to do. All I had to do was just freaking get Lucas one bump. I made him sell. All I had to do was put the horns up, and I was over. That's it. My music hit, I was over. That's how intense you need to be. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Now that you speak of that, it's really interesting that you say that, because it's someone like Lucas Sharp, like a high flyer. They can do a variety of moves. They can do 20 moves in order to get the crowd behind them. However, you just do one move, just one power move, boom, instantly you get heat. Instant heat right there. One move, whether you win or lose, you have instant heat. You can attack them after the match. That's just one of the benefits of being a heel. You don't need. I mean, I think personally, although I have obviously have no idea what I'm talking about because I'm not a professional wrestler, but you are. But I mean, being a face, it seems like there's a lot more work behind it, getting the fanfare behind you. Whereas when you're a heel, just one move, you hit someone over the chair, you hit someone over the head with a chair, such as what you did to Ron Zombie when you turned heel, I believe 2 years ago, in Waterbury or something like that. I was present at that show. But It just takes one move when you're a heel, and you have instant heat right there. You're one of the strongest heels in the company. Whereas when you're a babyface, it could take you months and months and months in order to get the crowd behind you.
Yeah. Well, I would say in my 11 years, I've pretty much been a heel maybe about 80% of the time. And no matter where I go, it's pretty much the image. It's the image, that I portray. It's as soon as you come out, it's just it's the whole package,
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty much just all intense, just like Stone Cold, pretty much. He was like a cleaner, even though people even when he was freaking heel, he was heel, and people were cheering him. He was over,
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, you could do anything. I mean, like you said, a chair shot, you're instantly turned heel. It's more than that. You don't need a chair shot to turn. It's just the attitude.
Yeah, that's the best part of your character, that it just takes that intensity of a heel in order to get over as a heel. So going back on that for a second, I had an idea right on the top of my head that I was going to ask you about. Dang it, I can't remember it a second. Hey Ben, you still there?
Okay,
yes, of course.
Are you gonna ask me about the greatest move that I ever invented?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
You're gonna ask me how I came up with the greatest move that was ever invented? You know what I'm talking about?
Actually, one more thing that I was going to ask you. Your image that you just talked about.
Yeah.
As you said in your WrestleView podcast, and you just said moments ago, you just mentioned Stone Cold Steve Austin, and that's what you remind me of. You remind me of the Stone Cold Steve Austin of Northeast Wrestling. You will have that edgy attitude that people still cheer, yet you portray someone that's more of a tweener, attacks heels and baby faces. I mean, more faces at this point since you're portraying a heel. But you still get those cheers of that edgy attitude era character. Yet, also on a side note, personally, I believe, I'm not sure if you're familiar with him or not, I personally believe that you resemble TNA's Bully Ray. You kind of have the same image. Personally, that's who I believe you resemble as from a TNA point of view. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's so funny that you say all those things about Stone Cold and Bully Ray. A friend of mine, Joseph von Schmidt, me and him, we were tag team partners. We were part of the Dreaded Guns back in, we were like one of the top tag teams about 3 or 4 years ago, and we were DPW tag team champs. he was then known as Tag Gunner, and he went on and became what he is now, Joseph Von Schmidt, one of the top indie guys around right now. And I would search around to try to change my gimmick a little bit, and he suggested me to go, why don't I change it to Bull Dredd. I'm like, I don't know if I want to be known as a bully. Now look at it, there's a bully, what's his name? You just said it, what's his name? Bully Ray.
Bully Ray.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, wow. But pretty much the Attitude Era, when Stone Cold was pretty much the top of the business, the top guy, he's pretty much, once he started getting over and being the top, like the new Hogan, that's what pushed me. I'm like, this is what I need to do. I mean, I already had, dreams of being a pro wrestler, and I had called Stanford, I think, back in '97. I was like, I want to know if there's any wrestling school around. And you needed at least 5 years experience just to get a tryout. But luckily, the school in Waterbury in 2001 was around, because that's when I finally decided. I'm like, this is what I need to do. And pretty much I portrayed my character, my attitude when I started training after Stone Cold, after Austin, and everything else just evolved from there. Everybody's like, going to do more like Vader, Bam Bam, working like a big man. One of the guys that kind of helped me work like a big man was a guy named Iceberg. He's a friend of mine, Rick Bennett. He was from a tag team called Cold Front. So I pretty much learned how to work like a big man from him. But I owe him a lot too. There's a lot of guys that I trained with that I learned from. That you probably would, guys, Ron Zombie, Bill and Cage, Fred Curry Sr., Fred Curry Jr. I trained with Bob Backlund a few times, Chris Hamrick from ECW. There's a lot of guys that come down that have helped me become to where I am today. Kurt Adonis has worked with me. So, I mean, you say, Bully Ray, hey, I pretty much, Stone Cold, I portray myself after him the majority of the time. So, hey, it all works. The package.
Yeah, exactly. And it seems like the more inspirations that you have, the better, so you don't strongly resemble just one person, because that's what a lot of the people do these days in both WWE and TNA. The one person resembles just a person from the past, and it just seems like a complete copycat of a character. However, when you resemble and you take two parts of two different people, like as you just said before, Stone Cold and the other people that you just mentioned, some people that mentored you, it kind of gives a rebirth of a new character, of a new gimmick, which is what makes it fresh in today's pro wrestling world, which is something that is unseen. So a lot of the people in WWE today just have a rehash of a lot of people's gimmick, like Cody Rhodes. He had that dashing thing going on last year. That was a complete rehash of what was his name? Rick Martel. He had that exact same gimmick a number of years ago. So a lot of these guys, just like CM Punk, he has the best in the world gimmick. He's not a complete, but somewhat of a copycat of Chris Jericho. And Chris Jericho made it known over Twitter a number of times over the past couple of months that he is angry and that he is, frustrated at the fact that CM Punk has pretty much stolen his gimmick. So I do like the fact that you kind of mixed two aspects of two different people and more in order to make the birth of your own character. So I really enjoy that aspect of it.
Well, I mean, pretty much, too, when I broke into the business, ECW was still fresh in the business, still around. It was towards the end. And that's the era that I kind of came from when I trained under, because I trained under Jason Knight from ECW. And pretty much, like I said, ECW was kind of put into my blood, you could say, and when I came into the business, because when Jason started ACW, Assault Championship Wrestling, ECW was, even though it had just finished, it was still fresh and people still knew what ECW was. And I think ECW is kind of what made WWE into what it is now. It's what gave it the attitude. And I mean, people kind of, it's weird that people kind of look at me and kind of like, they get intimidated by me, and I'm like, live, you know, you mean talk to me, you know. And it kind of, even though I came, like I said, from the era that I trained under and where I came from, it follows you no matter where you go. You know, like, oh, you know, he came from the, you know, the ACW days. Yeah, so what? I mean, I did a lot of the hardcore back in my early days. Do I would want to go back to those days? Not really, because now that I'm older and I have kids, I don't look back at those days of like I don't regret nothing, because it kind of got me to where I am today, you know, and it gave me the name and it gave me the reputation and gave me the image that I have, you know. You there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know, it sounded like it, yeah.
Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know where Graham went. Maybe his call dropped or something. But question from you were talking about how you got into the business. What, like, for people wanting to get into the business, the independent wrestling business, what steps do you need to take to do that?
You got to ask around, ask any indie wrestler that you see that's local from the area. See if there's any wrestling school around. Do internet search. A friend of mine, Joseph von Schmidt, is partners with one of the other guys in New Haven, Ben Chin. They are partners and they have a wrestling school in New Haven right now. Powerhouse Academy. It's up 33 Chestnut Ave, I believe. It's a good school. I mean, I've been down there a few times to work out. You know, Von Schmidt, he's you know, me and him trained together. He has more training than I have now. He's trained and worked in Mexico and Canada, and he's been on numerous tours through there. And you can learn a lot, you know, just to go down there and check it out. But you got to be careful who you, I guess, when you look for schools and people. Anybody could get a ring and say, hey, I can run a school. But I think if you don't have between 10 to 20 years experience in the wrestling ring, being in the business, you should not have a school. You know, I mean, anybody, if we can get in the ring, take a few bumps and say, hey, I trained and I'm a wrestler, but not, you know, I don't. Just be careful who you lend money out to, you know, and you got to trust your gut, I believe. You know.
Yeah, and that's interesting just to like hear the people who have gone through this, and then the young kids like me and Graham who may be thinking of a career in this or want to just know about this, to know someone who's actually been through it. So that's really interesting. You've mentioned your kids a couple times. What's your life outside of pro wrestling?
I am still currently married. I have my daughter's 8, my son is 4. It's the how can I say this? Being a wrestler and being married, it is rough. It is tough. And you know, it's brought me down avenues where you know, a lot of temptations and stuff, but it puts a strain on the family. But you know, at the same time, I think that being in the business has helped me grow as a man. The way I am now, if you were to meet me 11 years ago, before I even got to be in the wrestling business, I am not the person that I am now. I couldn't even talk to people, go up to a stranger and talk to them. Now it's like I have to have the attention all over me, you know. You know what I mean? Like I still get that way where I can't go to like public places and I'm kind of like shy, you know. But yet I go out in front of 2,000 people at the Mid-Hudson Civic Center, wearing my bullhorns on my tights and telling everybody to go F off. You know what I mean? And getting them, you know, riled up. So it's weird. But my family life, I'm a quiet person actually when I'm home. I like staying home, and you know, if I put on my kids or I'm just totally different than my character. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
You know, I'm Italian. My parents are from Italy. I speak Italian. People look surprised when they hear me speak Italian, and And I'm like, wow, I mean, but people, need to know the real. If they know the real me, then they're my friends.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and the funny you mentioned that about you really not being your character, and I think that I think it applies to a lot of wrestlers. Like, no one really knows who John Cena is in real life, or Randy Orton, or CM Punk, or any other wrestler. So that's really kind of interesting about the gimmick.
Well, actually, what I should have said, what I should have said was, and I thought about this through my last interview, even though I'm a total opposite of my character, actually, the little bit of that character is inside me. Because if it wasn't inside me, it wouldn't come out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, what were you saying about Orton and Cena?
I was just saying that it's kind of interesting to think who the people playing the characters in the wrestling world are in the outside world. Like John Cena, I'm pretty sure he's still a good guy outside of the wrestling world with all the charity he does, but people don't know who CM Punk is, or Randy Orton, or people like that, and that's just kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody, I think there's somebody who lives his gimmick, and it's Ric Flair. Total, you know what I mean, and maybe Hulk. But I mean, I'm sure. I think John Cena is where he is because gets away with. Well, I'm gonna say gets away. He's over because he is the gimmick. With the jean shorts and the rapping and the sneakers But that's what all the. That's what when he came out. That's pretty much society and kids. Even kids today walking around with their pants hanging on their ass. And they look at him, and he's kind of as their role model. That's why he is where he is, even though he sucks in the ring. I'm not going to take anything away from him, because I will never be at that level. But, you could ask me 30 years, you ask somebody 30 years ago if you could see their world champion in WWF was a world champion that wore sneakers and jeans shorts to the ring, they would have told you you're fucking crazy. But nowadays, and, I'm glad that kind of like we were talking about before, that WWE is even relying more back to the younger guys and guys can actually work, like CM Punk and a lot of the others, Ryder and, all those guys that are, workers, good workers now that are with the titles. But you know what? Why did it take so long to get to that point? It should have never veered off.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean. Now, when you meet new people and don't know you're a pro wrestler, and you tell them what you do for a living, how do they react to that?
Oh, I try not to tell them right away that I do pro wrestling, but I do come out and I do tell them. It does make me feel good. It's a little smoke up my ass, but a little pop for myself. But I do tell them I do it on the side. I do it for fun. I don't do it for a career. At one point in my life, I wanted to do it for a career, but once you see all more bad than the good of it, but I've come to terms that this is as far as I'm going to get, and I'm happy with it. But people kind of react like, "Wow, really?" Some people are like, "Yeah," they don't believe you until you actually show them a video on YouTube, and until they come and see you in person at a show, and you're like, "Damn," they're surprised at that. They say that's Mike. Oh my God, that's totally not you. I'm like, of course it's not me. Because as soon as I meet the kids and I come out that curtain, I'm a totally different person. They're more surprised than anything. And, and my family supports me. They got a lot of support,
Yeah. Now, you've wrestled a lot of matches over your 11 years in the business.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite or a favorite opponent?
Favorite opponent. I got a few. I got Ronnie, Von Schmidt. Some of my favorite matches were I was in a tag. They have to be the 6-man and the 8-man tags that I've had. even the tag team, I tagged twice with Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and I've had a 6-man tag when I tagged up with Romeo Roselli and Rob Echoes, or Robbie E, when we versus the Now and Jim Neidhart. That was one of my favorite matches. You know, Cedric, I worked a couple. You know, I didn't. For a while, my first times in the Northeast, I worked a lot of tag team matches, 6-man and 8-man, until I finally worked Cedric Alexander a few times in single matches. He was one of my favorite opponents too. He's an up-and-comer from North Carolina. They trained under like the high spot guys with like George South and like Bobby Eaton down there, Rock and Roll Express. So a lot of those guys, old timers on there. But I have a lot. I mean, I cherish everything. I don't care. Dude, I go work. You know, Lucas Sharp was one of my favorite match of mine. You know, I like everything that I do. You know.
Yeah, and I think that's really great. It's a really good quality of a worker to cherish everything he does in the ring, or a lot of the matches he has. Yeah, you've mentioned that you watch WWE and TNA, and then you go work with NEW. What is the biggest difference between the independent brands and then the mainstream brands?
I would say money, production, independent scene. There's not that much storyline. There's not much more. There's much more action in wrestling. You know, there's more action, and there's not as much gimmicky as what you see on TV. I mean, you know, honestly, Northeast wrestling to me, you want a family show wrestling without all the glamour and all the girls taking their clothes off or shaking their ass. Northeast wrestling is where you want to bring your kids and have family fun. You know, even TNA is okay, but they're kind of more edgy with the wording and the language and the color. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, the bleeding and everything. And so TNA is rated R and WWE is rated PG or whatever it's rated now. And Northeast, you swear, you're out. And that's what I tell everybody. You want family fun? You'll come to Northeast Wrestling. You'll still see the same action, and you still get, you know, it's cheaper.
Yeah. Now, what about talent-wise between the independents and WWE? Because me and my friends will talk about how there's a lot of more talented guys in some of the independent brands than the WWE or TNA. Is the talent, you think, about equal?
I'm not going to say it's equal. There's a lot of steps I think you need to take to get it up to at least, you know, obviously you need to know somebody to get to WWE or TNA. To me, if it was like 20 years ago, it wouldn't be as hard to get in or get a tryout. I think age, height, you know, when people say your weight and, you know, height and how big you are, doesn't matter. Yeah, it does. If you're not not 300 pounds, 25 years old, and on the gas, you're not getting looked at. That's the way I look at it. But, you know, I was told by more than one guy, Just Incredible said to me, if ECW was around when I broke in, he definitely would have used me. Or Paulie Dangerously definitely would have, or Heyman would have definitely used me. And it made me feel good, you know.
Yeah.
I tell all the young guys, don't come into this business thinking that you're going to make it, because you're not. So get it out of your head. Have fun. That's what I tell you guys, have fun.
Yeah. Now, and you probably have a lot of fun for wrestling, right?
Oh, yeah. You have a lot of fun. You meet a lot of idiots, a lot of dirtbags. People will step on you. People will crap on you. People will turn on you. People, you know, will do whatever they whatever they have to get your spot. And they will crap on you, tell you suck. But, you know, I've been through it all, and there's still things that bother me about people, but I got to just take it and let it go, you know. Believe me, I read the internet stuff. People say I suck, but yet I'm the one who got put over by Ric Flair. So who sucks, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Now, have you ever had to work a match with a guy who you've been arguing with backstage or really haven't liked?
I've worked with guys where there was a little tension, not anybody that I like hated or anything like that. You know, like I was kind of caught in the middle of a little heat, and I hope it didn't rub off on me, you know. But it was like tension, but everything worked out, and you know, and it was fine. But never anything where I hated anybody or anything like that.
Okay. Yeah. What? Sorry. What were you gonna say?
So I said, thank God.
Okay. Yeah. So what's pretty much the mood with the guys backstage, your fellow wrestlers? Does everyone really get along? Or?
Oh yeah, it's like a brotherhood. You know, I mean, being in a locker room when you're playing, when you're on a basketball team or a baseball team. You know, I mean, you're in the locker room and you know you say hi to everybody. You know, it's just like a big brotherhood. You guys. You know, the way I look at it as is, obviously, you know, you got the names, they bring in the people. Obviously, those are the guys that you want in their locker room. You know, nobody's better than them. I mean, because of the draw. But me, honestly, I say nobody's better than anybody else in the locker room unless you're the guy that's getting paid the big bucks to get the people to get them in, you know, to get the asses in the seats. It takes two to tango when you get in that ring. So everybody's an equal, you know. But the mood is friendly. I mean, I haven't had any situations where, there have been a few situations where I've watched some people, you know, intentionally kick somebody in the face in the ring, and he ended up freaking getting thrown out of the locker room, you know, and I told the kid straight out, I was like, you know, that was kind of wrong. You know, you've been in the business 5 years. Why would you intentionally kick somebody in the face? And so I was like, you know, just you don't want to piss anybody off because you're going to get a receipt no matter what. Always be respectful, you know.
Yeah. And because like we'll hear about some of the backstage tensions between superstars and the mainstream companies, and I think if everyone were to just be respectful, maybe we wouldn't have those tensions backstage. So.
Yeah, that's big time. You know, you got more money involved, and there's more animosity and tension and all that crap going on back there. More politics. That, you know, it just that's why I'm happy where I am. You know.
Yeah. Well, I believe that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining us on this show.
Thanks very much.
If people want to find you on social media, do you have a Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, anything?
Yes, I have a Twitter. I have a Facebook. You know, Bull Dredd. Looking up on Facebook, Bull Dredd, and I do have a Twitter. I go on every once in a while. I don't go on much, but it is at Bull Dredd. And check me out some videos on YouTube. And also go on, if you do like a Yahoo search on Bull Dredd, High Spots TV, High Spots down in North Carolina, they have like their own little web TV, and they've had some of my matches up that I've had in the past with, you know, on with down some of their past Northeast shows, and they have them up on their website. It's like free. And check that out. That's about it.
All right. Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for listening. We will see you next time. Goodbye.
All right. Thank you.